Let's get a start on drawing our foundation detail, assignment 12. So I've gotten started with some lines here. I went ahead and made my own section layers, A section framing and A section wall. You don't have to do that. If you want to use some existing layers, that's okay too. And see these break lines? Those are homemade. And before I start showing you that, let me just point out that we want to make sure that we have plenty of O-snaps selected, because O-snaps really make your work easier. So we've got the traditional endpoint. Make sure we have midpoint, perpendicular, and nearest when you're doing straight lines. Those are really good. Okay, let me zoom in here now, and let me draw a homemade break line. Maybe this one I'll draw at a little bit of an angle. Sometimes we do that. So there's a line. Okay. And now I'm going to just make a homemade squiggle. This is where that nearest O-snap is handy. See that? See that little bow tie looking thing? Nearest lets you snap right to that line. And now I'm just going to, by eye, make some squiggles using nearest and then going out in space. And now I will get the trim command, and this time I want to select which lines I want to use as the cutters, the cutting edges. So I'm going just to select this line and this line, enter, and now I click in between those two lines and I've got my line trimmed out inside there. So there's my homemade break line. I will erase this now, and I like to use the right crossing window because it's faster. Okay, so here's my thing. Before we go too far, maybe we should go to our paper space and make sure we have a good scale set. So I don't know what the scale is here. I'll double-click inside that viewport to open it. And what should we try? Well, this is kind of a big close-up. Let's try an inch to the foot. That's the same as 1 to 12. That looks too small. Let's try another one. And notice I can't see my numbers that I was working with, but I can grab this scroll bar and go down. I think I'll try 1.5 inches to the foot. Oh, that looks pretty good. 1.5 inches to the foot is the same as 1 to 8. So I think I'll go with that. And now the very next thing I'll do is I'll double click outside the viewport to close it. Okay. And now I'll go back to model space. Now I might want to put some hatch into this concrete wall. And for that, I'm going to use the hatch layer, a hatch. And here is the hatch command up here in the toolbar, hatch. And I'm going to come up here and look for the pattern that I want. And the one that I want is AR concrete, right there at the top. Now, the conventional word is that whatever scale your viewport is, that's the scale you should set your hatch, but that is not working out for me. So I am just going to leave my scale at 1. Here's the scale right here. If you know a better idea, please tell us. And hopefully I've got some closed-in shapes here, so I'm going to click Pick Points, so that I can click inside my stem wall, and then I'll click inside my footing, enter. That looks pretty good. Now I want to show you the batting, that insulation. This one is annoying, I think. I made for you a layer called a hatch wall, and let's go look at the layer properties so that you can see what that is. A hatch wall has a batting line type. See, there's the batting line type. That's what's special about this one. I'm going to make the A hatch wall layer current. A hatch wall. Now, here's what you do. You draw a line. I guess I'll try drawing a line right in the middle of my stud here. And there's my midpoint O-snap. And I'll just drag up here and click. So you can see I've got a squiggly line there. Looks reasonably okay, but it's tiny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that line, and I'm going to go up here to this toolbar that is about properties, and I am going to set the properties of this line. I'm going to set the line type scale, which is this one right here. And right now it's 1, and that looks too small. So I'm going to try changing the line type scale to 6. Let's see how that goes. That's pretty good for this particular wall. And maybe I want to move that line a little bit. Just fit it up in there. I might have to fiddle with this some. Now let me try drawing some batting into my joist. I'm still on the A hatch wall layer, so I will try drawing a line somewhere in here. I'm not sure where to go. Okay. Now I will try setting this line type scale. This is an 8-inch joist, while that was a 6-inch stud. So maybe I will click on this line and I will try setting a line type scale at 8 and see what happens. Pretty good. I want to point out that this is one of the only times you should ever set the properties of an object one at a time. That is usually really bad. Usually you want to set your properties by layer. If you need a different line type, you need to make a different layer. If you need a different thickness, you need to make a different layer. And that way, when you change a thing, it changes across the whole drawing all at once. That is the right way to do it. And if you change properties one by one, you're really going to regret it. But this batting is the one exception. So we do set the properties of the line one by one. Now let's go back to our paper space. Oh, well, I wanted to show you how horrible it can look, and it made a liar out of me. Watch what happens if I try setting the paper space line type scale to 1. Let's see if that'll foul up. Yeah, so sometimes your paper space line type scale looks bad, and then you go paper space line type scale 0, regen all, and that looks good. So rats, I didn't get to show you what can go wrong. Sometimes when you make this thing that looks great in model space, you come to paper space, and even after you set PSLT scale to 0, it just looks stupid. So then you have to go back to model space and fool around with setting the line type scale. Click on the line, go to the properties, and set a different line type scale, and just keep fooling around with it until you get one that looks right in paper space. But in this case it was okay. Now notice that in paper space, in my title block I still have this graphic scale down here, but this is not correct. My scale is 1.5 inches to the foot, and that's not what this graphic scale says at all. So I could change the numbers here, but I don't think I will do that. I think I will just erase that. What else is wrong here? Well, I've got a north arrow in my title block. This is not a plan view. North is not pointing up. So that has to go away. I'm going to erase that north arrow. And then, of course, I will change my title to elevation, and I will change my sheet number and put my name in here and all of that. So there we are. We have a good start on a detail. Now I might come along and add some of the rebar and so forth, and add some text and so forth. But that's a good start.